Hello there.
Right.
This chair won't.
Hello there.
Hey Nick,
Yes, Rocco.
remember that comprehensive simulation for finance and business that we just finished?
Yes, I do.
Well, Mr. Webster has given us a part 2, and it's a Q&A.
Really? Tell me more.
Well, we've got 10 questions, and we're going to answer them the best of our ability.
All right, let's get to it.
Let's go. All right. Question 1. Explain your pathway and rationale for decisions. Were you successful? Why or why not? Regrets? Well, I had my career pathway where I advanced from, eventually I got the job as a data entry specialist, and then I moved up to an IT supervisor and eventually a vice president in IT. And that was only possible because of my educational pathway, which I took, where I got the education that was necessary to move up. I was successful, and the only regrets I have would be first, not maintaining a good credit score sooner, and secondly, not getting renter's insurance sooner.
Well, for me, it's more of a. I started off as a cashier working weekends and weekdays, and then it took me forever to get an education, which was my only regret. And because of doing that, it caused my credit score to drop.
Mm-hmm. All right, so based on your response to question 1, what would you do differently if you had to do it again? Based off of my regrets, I would definitely maintain good credit sooner, and secondly, I would get renter's insurance right off the bat because I got robbed a couple of times.
Well, for me, it would starting the education much sooner. That way, I would have gotten a much better job and got to that.
Yep.
Just the greater jobs faster.
Vice president,
Yeah.
So what was your most important key to determining your success in the simulation? Why? How? Suggestions? Education, hands down, was the most important. I never would have made it past cashier if I didn't continue my education. So I would suggest that people doing it advance their education as soon as possible.
I would have to agree with you 100% on that. Education is most likely the number one thing people want to invest in.
So based on your response to question 3, how well did this mirror real-world application? Similar, useful lesson. I would say this mirrors the real world pretty well. There are instances, where people join the military and and become successful that way. But generally speaking, education is the ultimate deciding factor in your success. Yeah, would you agree, Nick?
I totally agree, but education is by far the most realistic thing about the simulation to me. But even though most people who are like dropouts usually do tend to survive out in the world without it.
So any surprises throughout the simulation? If so, were you prepared for them? Why or why not? Regrets? There were surprises throughout the simulation. I got robbed a couple of times, and I wasn't prepared for that because I didn't get renter's insurance, so my regret is not getting that sooner. But the biggest thing that took me by surprise was being laid off from my job, and I couldn't really prepare for that, but I moved on and became successful.
The only surprise for me was my guy kept getting injured, and it was just pretty bad, but eventually I found a bunch of jobs that helped me out with healthcare and healthcare insurance, and then eventually I ended up getting robbed and getting the renter's insurance as well.
Based on your response to question 5, has this changed your thoughts on future real-world application? I would say it definitely put things more in perspective for me, like especially how important it is to have all the proper insurances. That way you are prepared for any surprises in life, and it also made me realize like how big a part paying your bills is in your life.
Because I have to agree on the paying the bills part, because I wouldn't think of it much more as handing cash in, but it's like thousands times more difficult than what that is. And the taxes are a completely different story. And luckily, because of this course, it taught me so much more.
What was the toughest part of this simulation? How was that reflective of the real world? I would like honestly, the toughest part was being able to balance my life while advancing in education, because when I would advance my education, I would have to stop a lot of my work, so I had much less money coming in, so it was hard to be able to pay for everything I needed while going through education.
Yeah, that was most definite for me. It was pretty bad.
hmm Um, Explain what risk is and how you can leverage it to increase net worth. What is begotten from high to low risk? Um, the most obvious form of risk was in investments, and I did a little bit of investments, but it wasn't. It felt to me like it wasn't worth the risk, at least in the simulation, because there wasn't a huge payoff, anyways. But the biggest risk was definitely like education. It's a recurring thing, but like it would take so much money in, and you would have to go for so long without other means of pay.
Yeah, the education is what mainly put me in debt, which was a huge risk for me. Like it put me thousands and thousands of dollars in net worth just down the drain. But eventually it caught up with me and got me over that 300,000 mark.
If you were sitting next to yourself 2 weeks ago, what would you tell yourself in preparation for the simulation? I would say one, right off the bat, um, start education. Obviously, get a job as well, but start on education as soon as possible, and also make sure that healthcare and renter's insurance is all squared away, so you don't have to worry about anything like that.
Well, for me, it would be kind of the same where it would be I would have the cashier job on the weekends, but I will have school and education throughout the whole week. That way I can get to the higher positions.
So, using what you learned from the simulation in this unit, what is your financial goal in life, and what is your plan to achieve it? Financially, I mean, I can't set necessarily a limit, but I would say I want to be in a financial state where I can take occasional vacations, be able to support my family, and also, you know, own a house. Like I just want to be, I want to have all of my finances squared away,
Yeah.
and my plan to achieve that is to firstly go to college, uh, make sure I do well, and then use my parents' expertise as advice to move through the marketing and communications world.
Yeah, I have to agree with you 100% on that. Getting my finances in check, getting a great job and career to help me set myself great for the future, to help out and support my family.
Mm-hmm.
100%.
Cool.